Hello, everybody.
Hello, Mona.
Hello, but I can't see you, Dato. Or I can. Yes,
Okay,
how are you?
right. Good.
У меня написано, вы не можете включить звук, поскольку его остановил организатор. Вы не можете включить звук, поскольку его остановил организатор.
А вас слышно?
Ну. Добрый день и добрый вечер, дорогие малазийские наши коллеги. Как меня слышно и видно? Скажите, пожалуйста, потому что я вас не вижу. Алло. Скажите, пожалуйста, как меня слышно? Сделай там, чтобы их видно было как-то. Или просто вещать в пустоту.
Yes.
Ага.
Yes, I can.
Yes, dear Redza, are you hear me?
Yes, Angela, I hear you loud and
Yeah.
clear. Good to see you.
Yes, good to see all of you. Thank you so much. I'm happy that we are finally together at this
Yes.
our first meeting online. I
Yes.
continue to tell in Russian, if you don't mind.
Sure, carry on.
Я приветствую всех наших дорогих гостей и слушателей нашей программы в рамках проекта «Лаборатория детской книги». Приветствую я вас из Российской государственной детской библиотеки, из представительства IBBY в Москве, которое мы открыли вот в нашей РГДБ на Калужской площади. Мы очень рады, что вы поддержали нас с этой встречей, с организацией встречи, так как она приурочена прежде всего к Международному конгрессу Международного совета по детской книге IBBY International Board on Books for Young People, который будет проходить в Малайзии. Я очень кратко для наших слушателей скажу об этой организации. Это совет был организован в 1953 году с целью объединить всех, кто создает детскую книгу, кто делает детскую литературу, кто заботится о детском и юношеском чтении. Организация имеет огромное количество проектов, имеет свою премию имени Ганса Христиана Андерсена «Золотую медаль». И раз в 2 года в одной из стран-участниц этого Международного совета проводят конгрессы, на которые съезжаются представители всех на сегодняшний день 82 секций Международного совета по детской книге. И о совете я могу говорить долго, я там работаю уже больше 20 лет, и очень рада, что Государственная детская библиотека также с 1968 года состоит в коллективных членах Международного совета по детской книге. Пройдет конгресс в городе Путраджайя. Вот, я теперь вижу, наконец, и Вен Ди Тан, и дорогого Редзу. Рада. Итак, 2 слова про Путраджайю. Это hello everybody. Это город Юго-Восточной Азии. Пройдет с 5 по 8 сентября 38-й Конгресс IBBY. Как мы прочитали про этот город, это умный город-сад, эстетически привлекательный, экологически чистый, символизирующий программу модернизации страны, демонстрирующий ее культурное наследие и самобытность. Тема Конгресса «Сила, историй». Подробно нам об этом расскажет уважаемый господин Ахмад Редза бин Ахмад Хайруддин. Это большой друг и нашей библиотеки, и очень известный человек в нашей организации и IBBY, в Международном совете по детской книге. Редза занимается издательским делом с 1997 года, когда он возглавил собственное издательство и печатный дом в Малайзии. В центре его бизнеса публикации образовательных материалов и производство качественных, хороших учебников для дошкольного образования, начальных и средних школ. Кроме того, он активно издает детские книги для малазийского рынка. Является членом Национального книжного совета Малайзии. И это головная организация книгоиздательской промышленности, которая осуществляет в Малайзии контроль за политикой и развитием отрасли в целом. Дважды Редза был в России. Это когда у нас проходил исполнительное заседание исполкома в Москве. И я очень рада, что прям незадолго до этой ужасной пандемии у нас была возможность встретиться в Санкт-Петербурге на культурном книжном форуме, где господин Редза был докладчиком. И это, конечно, незабываемые встречи. И я очень надеюсь, что наши уважаемые спикеры смогут посетить нашу библиотеку, как мы сейчас говорим, офлайн, in person. Итак, да, и также в 2010 и 2014 годах господин Редзо был президентом IBBY. Я представляю вам слово, и мы очень рады будем услышать подробности предстоящего конгресса. Спасибо.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Angela, good to see you. It's a very nice day. Of course, in Malaysia, we are at 7 p.m. now. And, you know, I think it's probably in the afternoon in Moscow. So thank you for this session. Given the opportunity, I would like to speak a bit about the 38th IBBY Congress. Is it my turn to speak now? Is that it?
Yeah. Good.
Yeah. Okay. I'll go straight into the IBBY Congress, the 38th IBBY Congress, which will be held from the 5th to 8th September 2022. As mentioned by our translator, it will be held in Putраджайя, which is the administrative capital of Malaysia. It is an enchanting new city, beautifully designed with lakes, lots of greens, you know. Of course, I have been to Moscow and St. Petersburg, an unforgettable trip and a beautiful and two beautiful cities. I wish I had been able to see more of Russia. But since COVID didn't allow me to participate physically in the Moscow Congress, and I'm really hoping that to all my friends in Russia, you will have the opportunity to come by to Malaysia, to Putраджайя, Malaysia, to attend our 38th Congress. We look forward to welcoming you here. We are confident that very soon the Malaysian government will announce the opening of our border for international visitors. And incidentally, we have also today opened up the registration links for participants from all over the world to register to attend the IBBY Congress here. Up front, I would like to give the assurance to everyone that we are preparing for a full physical IBBY Congress, keeping our fingers crossed that the COVID-19 issue will be put to rest and fully vaccinated travelers are given the opportunity and the rights to travel. Congresses like ours will be able to take place, and we are able to welcome all of you. However, in the worst possible scenario of the impossibility of a physical meeting, we are making preparations to also have events which can be live streamed at the very least to our international audience, as well as the possibility of having a full online event. This decision will only be made once we are very certain of what are the restrictions or prohibitions that will prevent our friends from over the world from coming to Malaysia. But at the moment, our preparation is for a full physical meeting, simply because we are truly excited about the possibility of meeting all of you again, especially you, Angela. We have not met for many years.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Yeah?
We are going to visit you.
Yeah. Yes. And at our event, we definitely would like to see participation and presentation from members from IBBY Russia, simply because our theme, which is the power of stories, It is my belief that it is a very powerful team that will allow many people, everyone from all over the world, to speak about the power of stories, to speak about their experiences and how stories have developed, impacted, and nurtured the lives of our own members, our children, and perhaps the possibility of the future generation. So we would very much welcome everyone to come forward and present. The call for papers is still open. You can refer to our website, www.ibbby-congress2022.org, and we'll be willing to hear from you as to what you have planned for us. Moving on the theme of the power of stories, we have recognized 6 sub-themes as shown on the screen. Sub-theme number 1 is cognitive power in children's development. Sub-theme number 2 will be stories for healing for children and young adults. Sub-theme number 3, the power of visual and oral presentation in children's and young adults' stories. Sub-theme number 4, bridging divides in children's and young adult literature. Sub-theme number 5, identity and values in children's and young adult literature. And sub-theme number 6, empathy and memory in stories and storytelling. So these are the 6 major sub-themes that we have identified, and we're very sure there are many opportunities for speakers from all over the world to share their knowledge and experience on these sub-themes, and we very much like to have them here. In particular, as Malaysia is the first Southeast Asian country to ever host the IBBY Congress, what we have to offer from this part of the world is our multicultural background, multi-religious background, our colorful culture and stories. We have lots to share. We have a long history of storytelling and children literature, although it's not much publicized. It's more traditional, it's more oral. We have a very strong influence from the West through the presence of other countries in the administration of our nation then. Historically, we have been a subject of the British. We were having the Japanese, in our country during the Second World War. So the fabric of the Malaysian history and children literature has also influenced from these countries. At the same time, Southeast Asia, the other countries within our caucus, they are also very rich in their diaspora, their color and their fabric and their background. So these will also be featured prominently during the Congress. Of course, what we hope to receive from our friends from all over the world is your part of the stories and your history and your literature within the theme of the power of stories to be shared here as well. So it is a meeting of great minds, a meeting of great historical powers, the meeting of a wonderful developing civilization, and we hope Putраджайя will be the most memorable IBBY Congress for everyone, because this is where we'll have lots and lots and lots of stories to tell and share. So a little bit about our venue. We'll be having the Congress at the official administrative capital of Malaysia, as I mentioned just now. It is near to the Kuala Lumpur International Airport. The population now at Putраджайя is more than 100,000 and growing. And we have the local government, the local council, as our main partner for the Congress. They are the host city, and they are the venue host for us as well. All the government agencies are located in Putраджайя. So we will have our neighbors, perhaps the Prime Minister and the Cabinet Ministers of Malaysia as well. And hopefully they will be able to join us in some of our events. You will have the pictures of some of the venues. On the first slide, on the left is the Prime Minister's office complex, and on the right hand is where our conference venue is. That is the main building of the local government that is called Complex Perbadanan Putраджайя or Putраджайя Administrative Complex Building. We will be here for 4 days, beginning from the 5th. And it's a beautiful building, a beautiful architecture with a beautiful garden on the foreground, with fine weather anticipated in September. There'll be a lot of opportunity to have picnics, to sit by the garden, to meet up and chat up with friends and colleagues as well. We have other pictures. This is some of the venue, venue conference halls. This is where we will be. Some of the breakout rooms and the lobby areas. Next, this is our plenary hall. We can fit 1,000 people here at the maximum, but with the distancing requirement, because of COVID, we could probably be looking at 500 people, and we will also have other rooms to fit the other guests who may not be able to enter this auditorium, and we'll have a live feed of the events going on. This is also another, lecture theater, which can be used during the Congress. Activities, well, this is probably part of the cultural presentation that we can offer. Same like Russia, we have plenty of dances and songs. And our dances and songs are very easy as well for everyone to participate and join. Where we have time from now to start learning and practicing. I'm saying this especially to me because I'm a very poor dancer, or I don't dance at all. Now perhaps if I'm able to pull Angela up to the stage, I will have to learn some steps myself. Yeah, and so we have the opportunity to see and listen to this during the Congress. So these are the important dates that we have. Abstract and call for papers is still on up till the 15th of March. As I mentioned, we are really looking forward to hear from our friends in Russia. Russia is a very far country for many of us Malaysians, and many of us want to visit Russia because of the pictures that we see of the buildings, the colorful buildings around Moscow, the beautiful sceneries in St. Petersburg and so on. But when it comes to culture and history and stories, I am probably one of the few members from Malaysia who had the privilege of visiting Moscow and St. Petersburg as a member of IBBY, and with great friends from IBBY Russia, where I saw the beautiful culture and children literature, stories and so on. And I would like our friends in this part of the world to enjoy that as well. Yeah. So registration and fee payments starts 15 December, but we have deferred that a bit. It can start now. and rest assured, whatever payments that have been made for the full face event, in the unfortunate situation where we have to convert this into an online event, we will be providing refunds to everyone. But it is important that we know early how many people are coming. So we'd like to encourage registrations, and whatever that needs to be done, rest assured that we will be committed to ensuring that no one loses any funds that they have remitted in case it is not possible to proceed. It is a very difficult situation because earlier it was all confirmed COVID and people really cannot travel. Now it's a stage of, yes, it's over, but it's not. So it's like yes and no, no and yes, and we have to be prepared for both, although we are positive that it will be okay. So we will be preparing as if it's all okay. And those whose papers are going to be accepted will be notified anytime. We have a scientific committee led by our Deputy President of Malaysia IBBY, Dr. Sidin, who is working on this. We have notified some of our members already. And the early bird registration, at the moment, the deadline is 15 March. And everyone can also register up to 1st July. If necessary, we will extend that as well as a free payment. And the dates are there. We will have pre-Congress and post-Congress events. And we hope everyone who comes here will be willing to plan to spend more time, either before or after, to see the sights of Malaysia, as well as to perhaps even participate in some of the activities that we have planned to be held before the Congress as well as after the Congress, the details of which we will be announcing very soon. So look out for more information on our website, and we'll be sending emails to each and every IBBY national sections to inform what we're doing. And of course, in the very near future, very soon, we will also be highlighting the speakers, the key persons. We are hoping to get a diverse group of speakers and presenters from among IBBY nations as well as non-IBBY nations. And we will also be bringing forward to you key children literature personalities from Malaysia who have been in this line for a long, long time, but perhaps on a very modest scale, but they have certainly made a significant impact on our children and our children literature scenario in Malaysia and the Far East. So that's about all that I'm going to tell you for the moment about the 38th IBBY Congress. And I really hope that you all will come. Feel free at any time to communicate with us, to ask and to clarify any questions that you may have. Thank you very much. See you soon.
Спасибо большое, уважаемый господин Редзо, за очень интересную презентацию. И от имени всех российских коллег я желаю успеха Конгрессу и благодарим очень, как вы поддержали наш Конгресс, когда на церемонию закрытия приехали представители посольства во главе с послом, и мы торжественно передали символ, красивую чашу в виде птицы хохлома для вас. И вчера я имела честь вместе с моей коллегой из библиотеки быть гостем вашего посольства в России. И нас принимал заместитель дипломатической миссии Джохан Ариф Абдул Разак, директор отдела по туризму Джеффри Бин Мунир, другие коллеги. И нам сообщили, что птица до вас доехала, до Малайзии. Нам сказали, что нам помогут с и приглашениями, и с поездкой. и мы очень надеемся, что скоро увидимся. И перед тем, как предоставить слово нашим уважаемым гостям сегодняшней передачи, трансляции, я хотела бы сказать, что не только Конгресс знаменует этот год для нас в Малайзии, а также 3 апреля исполняется 65 лет дипломатических отношений между Малайзией и Россией. И мы во время нашего визита в посольство достигли определенных договоренностей о том, что на территории нашей замечательной библиотеки будет неделя малазийской культуры. И мы как раз и storytelling услышим. Да, браво, спасибо большое. И познакомимся с танцами. Вот тут как раз я и пройду мастер-класс перед тем, как танцевать уже с вами, господин Редза, на Конгрессе. И наши дети, самое главное, это наши дети, узнают о ваших иллюстраторах, о ваших писателях и о культуре прекрасной Малайзии. Итак, я хотела бы сейчас представить прекрасного иллюстратора Вен Ди Тан. Вен Ди Тан получила степень магистра детской книжной иллюстрации в Кембриджской школе искусств в Великобритании. Это автор и иллюстратор детских книжек-картинок. Дебютная книжка с картинками «Лили» была опубликована в 2015 году и удостоена очень престижной премии Кейт Гринуэй. Это премия английская для художников-иллюстраторов. А также эта книга вошла в шорт-лист премии Клауса Флюге в 2016 году. И что особенно важно для нас, что получили вы и золотое яблоко биеннале иллюстрации в Братиславе. Мы очень сотрудничаем с этим прекрасным конкурсом, с этой организацией и искренне вас поздравляем. Вен Ди нравится создавать книжки с картинками, в которых есть двойная адресация. Как мы прочитали на вашем сайте, я цитирую, вы считаете, что хорошие истории нравятся людям всех возрастов. И мы с этим согласны, что детская литература – это прекрасная область для того, чтобы творить и дарить детям лучшее. Я хотела бы начать с такого вопроса к вам. Расскажите немного нашим слушателям о вашей карьере иллюстратора. Где вы научились рисовать? Мы знаем, что до этого вы почти 10 лет работали в IT-индустрии. И что стало толчком, чтобы так, не то что кардинально, но, в общем, сменить сферу деятельности? Пожалуйста, уважаемая Вен Ди.
Hi, can you hear me? Hello, everyone.
Yes, we hear you very well.
Thank you for having me. Thanks for the great introduction. And I would like to say, in answer to your question, how I got started in illustration when I've been working in IT for more than 10 years. It was just that I've always loved to draw since I was very young. So at that point in time, I was at a point of my career where I thought that I needed to take a break. So I basically quit my job. I enrolled myself in a local art course. I gave myself about 1 year to try it out, to see, whether I could, whether I liked it, and then make a decision then. And after I started the course, that was it. I didn't look back. And even the story of how I ended up in the field of children's book illustration is quite in a roundabout way. In my local course, I found that while I loved art, I found that the course wasn't really appropriate for me. So my lecturers at the time, advised me to just head to the UK to study art. And that was what I did. I enrolled myself in a course at the University of Arts London. And during my first year there were some of my classmates who were really interested in the Bologna Children's Book Fair. So I sort of tagged along. I went to the fair. It was a very eye-opening experience. And I thought that was it. That was my calling. That's what I wanted to do. So I enrolled myself in a master's in a children's book illustration course at Cambridge Art. And I graduated in 2014. And that's it. I never looked back. So while I've worked mostly in the children's book illustration, I'm actually really interested in, all forms of visual storytelling. So currently, I'm sort of exploring, other formats like graphic novels and comics.
Спасибо большое. У меня следующий вопрос будет такой. Кто или что повлияло на ваше творчество? Что было вашим, или кто вдохновителем?
Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you, I'm going to share a screen. So hang on while I try to... Okay, can you see this?
Yes, now we see. Thanks.
Okay, so as I said, I'm very interested in visual storytelling. So I'm influenced by compelling storytellers, people who tell really, really interesting, unique stories, such as Sean Tan, Hayao Miyazaki, Jimmy Liao is a Taiwanese author illustrator, and that's the stories that the stories that they tell are really, really interesting to me, and I'm very much influenced by that. But other than that, I also am influenced by artists who work in a way or medium that I'm interested in. So, for example, I work with watercolors a lot. So not surprisingly, I'm influenced and I follow a lot of watercolorists. So here on the screen, you can see there's Kim Min-ji. She's a Korean illustrator. She illustrates a lot of fairy tales, very beautiful, colorful, whimsical illustrations. There's Emily Trekais. I hope I didn't mispronounce her name. She also does a lot of comics. I love her watercolor illustration style. There's Quentin Greban, a very, very accomplished watercolorist. Lisbeth Zwerger, also another one. Love her compositions, and she's the way that she works with watercolors is really, really magical. I'm also interested in someone like Isabelle Arsenault, who mixes watercolor pencils with watercolor. So some sort of a mixed media. Because I myself also work with charcoal, there's Anna Huan, an Italian illustrator. I just love her black and white illustrations, which, very impactful and very striking. There are others like Zhao Dao, which is a Chinese illustrator, and Yuko Shimizu, she's a Japanese, she's currently based in the States. They work with, brushwork. And for example, like Yuko Shimizu, she's really good at marrying her traditional brushwork. So what she does is she creates all her line work with a Chinese paintbrush and ink, and then she scans it in, and then she colors it digitally. So all these are, the way they work, and how they work, and the way they compose the pictures are, these are the artists I follow and are very, very much like to learn from.
Спасибо большое за этот интересный рассказ о творчестве замечательных художников, и очень многие известны нашим российским читателям и специалистам. И мой следующий вопрос такой. Скажите, пожалуйста, вы как участник конкурсов, международных выставок, наверняка встречались, может быть, не лично, а с творчеством российских художников-иллюстраторов. Нравится ли вам чье-то творчество, и кого-то вы могли бы, может быть, отметить и сказать пару слов о наших художниках-иллюстраторах детской книги?
I'm really, really sorry, but I've not had the good opportunity to get acquainted with any of the Russian illustrators, but I have come across a lot of Russian illustrations. This is my impression of Russian illustration. I've always loved the illustrations where when I see Russian illustrations, I always think about fairy tales. The way that the artist illustrates, the illustrations are usually very, very rich in detail, very, very colorful, very, very beautiful, very, very saturated in colors, and they're just so mythical and magical. I just associate Russian illustration with sort of a fantastical, mystical, magical type of fairy tales. It's very, how to say, it lends itself very well to a certain type of storytelling, and it's to do with fairy tales as opposed to the more modern setting of storytelling. So unfortunately, I can't remember any of the Russian illustrators' names off the top of my head, but I know that there is one that I recently got acquainted with, which is Vera Pavlova. I find it's just really, I don't know, I keep using the same words, but it's very unique. It's not something that I see in other illustrators' works, and I just love her use of colors. I love the way that she draws, the imagery that that comes across. It is very I just equate it to fantasy. It's just it fuels the imagination. That's what I would say. Yes.
Спасибо большое, спасибо за очень интересный, обстоятельный ответ. И мы любим иллюстрации Веры Павловой. Это замечательная художница из Санкт-Петербурга. К сожалению, ее уже нет в живых, но книга с ее иллюстрациями послана Ремезова, она тоже, как и ваша книга, была удостоена высокой награды Биеннале иллюстрации в Братиславе. И мы, конечно, чтим память этой замечательной художницы. Мой следующий такой вопрос. Вы получили BIB, Биеннале иллюстрации в Братиславе, в 2019 году за 2 книги, одна из которых была так называемая Silent Book, книжка без слов. Вы в тот момент, когда создавали эту книгу, уже осознавали, что это такой модный, определенный, популярный тренд? Или для вас это было желание создать собственную авторскую историю, которая была бы понятна читателям всего мира? Так как книги без слов – замечательный проект, который объединяет молодое поколение самых разных стран, говорящих на разных языках. Спасибо.
It is interesting that you brought it up because I wasn't aware that there was a trend in silent picture books. I think it developed only quite recently, like over the past few years. That's my impression, because when I came up with that book, which is this one. So the idea for the book actually came from a project that I was doing for my master's. So it was my first picture book, and it happened to be a project that was working on my master's. And at that time, right, because it was the first time I was, working with, a picture book, I didn't have the confidence to write the text yet. So in the end, I ended up with a book with no words. And it just so happened that way. But personally, I love silent picture books. I think that it's a way, it works differently from picture books with text. It basically challenges the reader to derive all the meaning from the pictures. There are no words to help. So, and it allows for different interpretations. So one reader may interpret it one way, and then another reader may interpret it a different way. And I love that it allows for alternative interpretations. There's no right or wrong. And it allows, as long as the reader pays attention to the pictures, they will find clues within the pictures to tell them about, to give them, the understanding of what's going on and all that. And I love that. And I'm so glad to know that it is now a trend because then I can start working on more silent picture books. But yeah, at the time I didn't know. When I came up with it, I didn't know. I'm just hoping that the trend will take off.
Спасибо большое. Я хотела бы подчеркнуть, что когда мы готовились к нашей встрече, мы просили специалистов присылать вопросы для вас. Поэтому те вопросы, которые я озвучиваю, это не только мой интерес, а это вопросы к вам от наших российских коллег. Поэтому вот следующий такой вопрос. В 2016 году вышла книга Сабрины Мурат «Дни серого медведя» с вашими иллюстрациями на очень непростую тему ментального расстройства. Однажды в жизни матери 8-летнего мальчика по прозвищу Little B приходит в жизнь его угрюмый серый медведь, такая метафора депрессии, который не отходит от нее ни на шаг. И герой и его мама вместе учатся жить и вот справляться с этим грейбе, да, серым медведем. Когда книга вышла, автор отмечала, это мы тоже прочитали в интервью, что тема депрессии и ментального здоровья в малазийском обществе освещена очень слабо, и к ней часто относятся скептически. А вы очень тонко и деликатно воплотили в своих иллюстрациях метафору автора. Несмотря на такую сложную тему, книга, которая могла бы оттолкнуть, она не создает такого ощущения тяжести. И в этом заслуга, безусловно, автора и заслуга ваша. Вот как вам кажется, каков был отклик на эту книгу среди читателей и родителей? Как ее восприняли?
Okay, I have not had direct interactions with readers, especially young readers, but I have had a number of readers who have read the book, who are either sufferers of depression themselves or who has a close family member who suffers from depression. So what they've done is they've reached out to me. They've basically sought me out. They looked for my email and emailed me directly, and they told me about how the book affected them. Both they basically told me that it resonated with them, and I think they assumed that I was they asked very delicately to ask me whether I was a sufferer of depression myself. Because they thought that I had to have some experience with depression to be able to represent it in illustration, that way. And I thought that was one of the biggest compliments that they've ever paid me as an illustrator, because I have not suffered depression. I'm not a sufferer, but I do have friends and acquaintances who have suffered from depression. But when I was working on the book, I had a lot of concerns because this was a very delicate subject. It was a very sensitive topic, and it's a book targeted at children. So I had to do a lot of research. I think I've done the most research for this book compared to my other books. And what I focused on was how it feels to have this condition. So I wasn't focused on the clinical, technical definition of what depression is. I was focusing on, how people who suffer from depression, how they feel, what they experience, and how their day-to-day life is affected. So I was focusing on that, and there were also other concerns about how this is a book targeted at children, and the way that the story was told, it was told from the point of view of the boy, who and not the point of view of the mother. The mother is the one who's suffering from depression. So it is told not from the point of view of a sufferer. So the boy is sort of like an outsider, and he's observing what is happening to his mother. So in a way, it can't be too dark, because that's not what the boy is experiencing. It can't be, and on the other hand, I don't want to trivialize the condition either. I don't want to have a, on the one hand, I don't want to make it too serious, too dark, too scary. And on the other hand, I don't want to feel, to come across as, not doing it justice. So it was sort of a delicate balancing act. There were comments in the beginning while I was doing the illustrations that it was not dark enough. The bear is not scary enough, and at some point I had to put my foot down and said, I'm aware of all these concerns, but in my opinion, I do not, because I'm presenting this to children, so I do not want them to see the bear as something to be scared of or to something to be afraid of. It's not a big bad thing that they should avoid or whatever. It's not wanted, it's unwelcome, but it's not something scary. So I was very conscious about how children will see that. I don't want to scare them. So it was one way or the other. And so when I got feedback from these two readers who told me that it resonated with them, so I felt that, okay, I've done my job. If it resonated with people who have experienced it, in that way, I hope that people who seek the book out may be able to understand it better. So, yeah.
Спасибо за такой честный, откровенный разговор на такую непростую тему. И, пожалуй, наверное, последний будет у меня вопрос такой, над чем вы сейчас работаете? Есть ли у вас авторские книги в проекте? И планируете ли вы и дальше участвовать в международных конкурсах, в которых вам так удается легко и замечательно побеждать?
I just want to point out that I'm not doing this to win competitions. I just love telling stories. So I do have a new book out. This is Dream. It was just published last year. I actually just received this a few hours ago. Thanks to COVID, it took 3 months to reach me. So the publisher just sent me this. It's about, again, there's a visual, the use of visual metaphor. There's a rabbit here. It represents dreams. So this whole book is about a little girl chasing after the rabbit, which basically represents chasing after her dreams. So that's the latest book. I did have another project which I did, which is this one. This is just a mock-up. Can you see this? So this one is a surprise. It's a wordless picture book. This, when I said that I wanted to look at different formats of visual storytelling, so this is somewhat of a cross between a picture book and a graphic novel. So something like similar to Sean Tan's The Arrival, which is it's a picture book, but it can also be defined as a graphic novel. So this is what I have currently. So this is currently part of the Depictus showcase in Bologna this year. So I'm not sure if you're aware of Depictus. It's basically they hold an annual contest where authors and illustrators can send their picture book projects, where they were then reviewed by a group of publishers from all over the world, and they sort of vote for their favorites. And so the ones that receive the high votes, they get selected as a part of the showcase. So this will be in Bologna this year. So if you have a chance to visit Bologna, that's in I think a few months' time. If barring any other COVID restrictions, hopefully you'll be able to see this. So that's my two projects. The thing is, thanks to COVID, which has basically forced a lot of us to find new ways of working. So what I've done is, because of COVID restrictions and lockdowns, and it was really, really difficult to source for art materials because the shops are closed. And so what happened is now I'm switching over to digital art making now. So it's a learning process for me because I've always only worked traditionally. So, that's a new thing. So reskilling. And so currently, right now, other than these two projects, I'm also working on a web comic. So I've moved digitally. I'm working on my own personal web comic. Hopefully I can get something self-published on one of the comics platforms. Fingers crossed. So yeah, that's what I'm working on right now.
Мы тоже будем за вас держать пальцы крестиком, как тоже в России говорят. И, конечно, надеемся, что мы увидим книгу в Болонье. У нас на днях был тоже такой вот телемост с Еленой Пазоли, которая директор Болонской книжной выставки-ярмарки. И, конечно, она также надеется, что приедут со всего мира издатели, писатели, иллюстраторы, и, наконец, мы все увидимся живьем. Благодарим вас, желаем удачи, успехов. В Дни малазийской культуры в нашей библиотеке мы планируем сделать выставку художников-иллюстраторов. И если вы согласитесь также прислать нам несколько ваших работ, в электронной версии, конечно, то мы бы с удовольствием экспонировали и ваши иллюстрации, что будет очень приятно нашим читателям, и маленьким, и взрослым. Спасибо еще раз, уважаемая Вен Ди Тан. Дальше я хотела бы вам представить малазийского автора, известного Мохану Гилл. Я, когда говорила про нашу организацию, Международную International Board on Books for Young People, IBBY, говорила о проектах. И вот один из важных проектов – это IBBY on a List, почетный список IBBY, в который входят книги раз в 2 года, изданные по категориям «Лучший иллюстратор», «Лучший автор» и «Лучший переводчик». И вот уважаемая наша гостья Мохану Гилл как раз в последний почетный список 2020 года, следующий будет только в 2022, и мы получим эти каталоги в Малайзии, и вошла своей работой. Мохану Гилл – автор научно-популярных книг для взрослых и детей, продвигающий культуру здорового питания. Госпожа Мохану завоевала 6 наград «Лучший в мире», 1 награду «Лучший из лучших», присуждаемых организацией Gourmet World Cookbook Awards. В настоящее время ее внимание сосредоточено на детях и обеспечении их питательной, правильной диетой. Госпожа Мохану Гилл твердо придерживается утверждения Фредерика Дугласа: легче растить сильных детей, чем восстанавливать сломленных взрослых. Ее мечта – утвердить принципы здорового образа жизни, сохранить здоровое наследие для будущих поколений. Книжка, про которую я сказала, называется «Фантастические фрукты Хейли». Этот каталог мы перевели на русский язык, поэтому и содержание, во-первых, у нас все эти книги есть, так как мы приобретаем, с нами делится секретариат IBBY раз в 2 года коллекциями почетного списка, поэтому... И дальше скажу, что серия предназначена для обучения детей правильному выбору продуктов питания. И в связи с этим у меня такой первый вопрос. Нам всем из России, где, к сожалению, вы знаете, что погодные условия достаточно суровые, кажется, что в такой богатой фруктами, растительностью, страной теплой, как Малайзия, не может быть проблем со здоровым питанием. Но, видимо, это не так. Расскажите, пожалуйста, уважаемая Мохана, существуют ли такие проблемы и как вы пришли к написанию детских книг о здоровой пище?
Thank you so much for having me, and thanks for the introduction. Yes, Malaysia is a very rich country. It's green all year round. We have beautiful fruits and vegetables all year round, and enough for everybody to live a very healthy life. But unfortunately, it doesn't happen like that. What happens, we've got two problems in Malaysia with our children. We have the problem of obesity, and then we have a problem of malnutrition. So that there are some kids who are really obese, and there are other kids who don't have enough to eat. And according to the World Health Organization and things like that, Malaysia is at the top of the list for obesity and malnutrition for children. I think one of the reasons is that although we have all these healthy food and fruits growing in our country, I think people are not aware of the fact that these fruits and vegetables, when consumed, especially by our children, will make them much more healthy. And so I started to write books on, my main theme was healthy living, wellness, and longevity. And my main focus was fruits and vegetables. So the first two books that I wrote were books for adults, called Fruitastic, all about fruits, and Vegemania, all about vegetables. After I had written these books, the parents of these children came up to me and said, what do we do? Our children don't eat enough fruits and vegetables. What can we do to encourage them to eat more fruit and vegetables? So it was about that time, 2010, 2011, I had my first grandchild. And I decided then that I would write books about children to show them how to eat more healthy food and to make them much more healthy than normal. So that's how I started to write the Haley series. And the emphasis mainly was on fruit and vegetables because there's so much an abundance of that in our country. So I thought if we could show the parents or the caregivers that, hey, if you can have a diet which is more nutritious, that has more fruits and vegetables, then probably we will have more healthy children. The idea was not promoting vegetarianism as such, but it was to add more fruit and vegetables in the diet. You eat whatever you want, but consciously add a little bit more fruit and vegetables in your diet. So that's how I started writing. And of course, this problem of obesity and malnutrition is very, very high. And it's not only amongst the rich or the poor. Both have the same problem. The poor people they have malnutrition because they can't afford to eat the proper kind of food. Whereas the rich people, they become more obese, and because their choices are to eat more McDonald's and more Kentucky Fried Chicken and more of these fast foods, because with our growing culture of food, the advertisers are to advertise those foods in such a big way that the little children watching television want to eat McDonald's and want to eat Kentucky Fried Chicken and all the other street foods that we have that are very delicious, but not necessarily very nutritious. And I think with a lot of the parents, they don't give enough attention to the food. When you look at food, it is something that you eat, it is delicious and you eat it, and that's about it. So I think it's partly because if people start to think that we need, especially for children, because when they are growing, in the growing years, their body grows, their hair, their teeth, their skin, they need more nutritious food. So parents are not looking at it this way. They look at food as something that just has to be fed and the children are given to eat. And as long as they enjoy it, I think then they are quite happy with it. So it's a lot of understanding the importance of healthy and nutritious food for children that is lacking, I think. And we need to somehow or the other try to convince or show the parents that, hey, you can eat healthy food that can be delicious and nutritious, and you don't have to, go and have all this very unhealthy food. So that's how I started to write about food. And I also feel that one of the most important things for children is food. It's lovely to tell them stories about, fairies and everything else. It's fine. But I think if we don't feed our children the proper food, they are not going to be healthy. And how can they then enjoy all these other stories and all the other things that the world has, to give around them? So in my opinion, food, I think, is one of the most important things. And the quicker we realize that healthy eating has got to start from day one, from the time that your child is very small, you introduce him to these healthy kinds of food. That is why I wrote these books. And I introduced a character called Haley. Actually, this is Haley. Haley actually is my granddaughter. So the books are written for Haley. And I also watched Haley growing. And I found that from the time that she was very young, if you introduce her to different kinds of foods, she gets used to it, and that it becomes so much more easier. And like, as you said just now, that it's easier to grow, to give healthy food rather than to later on to take care of broken men, then it's too late already. Yes.
Спасибо большое. Очень трудно с вами не согласиться. В России тоже есть такая поговорка: в здоровом теле здоровый дух. Так что согласны с вами. Спасибо за такой подробный, интересный ответ. Скажите, пожалуйста, для кого вам интересней и легче писать? Для взрослых или для детей?
I think it is easier and more interesting to write for children, because you start off with the children, whatever you write for the children, they're quite happy to read and very happy. I think when you're writing for adults, you've got to be a little bit more careful, because the adults can question what you have written, or to tell you whether this is right or wrong. But if you write for children, and if you write it in a fun kind of way, and when you are writing books about food, fruits and vegetables, it is so much more easier, and you can look at it from the point of view of the child to see, whether he likes the look of the food, whether he likes to smell the food, he wants to touch the food. So I think in many ways it is easier to write for children than it is to writing for adults. I think writing for adults is a little bit more serious, and you've got to be a little bit more mindful about what you write. By the same token, you also have got to be mindful when you're writing for children, because you don't want to give them the wrong information or the wrong ideas. But at the same time, the books can be that much more fun for the children.
Отлично. Когда вы пишете детские книги, стараетесь ли вы мыслить как ребенок? Пытаетесь ли?
Okay. Is that better? Yeah.
Так, получилось перевести мой вопрос или мне повторить вопрос? Я не слышу, перевел мой вопрос?
Да, он перевел.
Ага.
Повторите вопрос, она там чат читала.
Will you repeat the question from me, please, Andrei? Just a moment, sorry. Mохану, can you hear the question? Dear Mохану, can you hear the question from me? Because
Yes.
our interpreter is already repeated. I asked.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes, I do think like a child, because children are so much more inquisitive. The children are much more interested. So I've put myself like my granddaughter or my little grandson and see what they are looking for when in the books that I write, whether they're looking for the color or whether they're looking for very beautiful illustrations, or what is it that interests a child. For example, for a child, when I write about fruits, right, he wants to know, he holds an apple in his hand, but when you ask him, where does this apple come from, he will tell you the supermarket, because he does not know that apples really grow in trees and how they are cultivated and how they are grown. So I think if you look at my books, you'll find that it shows the children how the pineapple is grown, what the pineapple tree looks like, and when you cut the pineapple open, what it really looks like. Because all they see is the wrapped up pineapple that they buy from the supermarket and bring it to the home to consume. So yes, I try to look at it from the point of view of the child, for him to understand, hey, where is my pineapple coming from and how it is grown, and to see the little plants growing, and then how you pluck it. And so that is why they go into the gardens, different gardens, and learn and see the different kinds of fruits and vegetables that are grown. Very much, I think, when I write, I think from the point of view of a child, what he's looking for.
Отлично, спасибо большое за ответ. И следующий вопрос. Могли бы вы дать какой-то универсальный совет взрослым, как воспитать в ребенке стремление к здоровым привычкам, но без назидательности такой, которая, мы знаем, назидательность всегда отталкивает и взрослых, а уж детей-то тем более.
Yes, I think the most important thing is the family. I think the family is the most important thing, and the child learns from the family. So if you want to inculcate good, healthy eating habits for the child, then it has got to start from the family, because the first thing that the child learns is from his parents, from the mother or the father. So you have got to be a really role model. And the child sees what you eat. And like when we eat together with our grandchildren, we put all the food on the table. And the child then looks and sees, what is mama eating? What is papa eating? And if they can eat this, then of course I can eat as well. And I think the other thing is that all of us as parents, I think, have had this problem where we, on the dining table, we are always nagging our children and saying, have more fruits, have more vegetables, you need more greens, you need more vitamins. I think that is not a very good way of doing it, but we all do it. I've done it myself. But I think we need to understand that you put it there in front of the child and then let him then decide what is the best thing to do. And sometimes you will find that you may show a child a particular dish maybe 10 times before he decides that he wants to try it. So I think the first learning is from his parents, and when you show him that you're eating healthy food, he will slowly learn how to eat that healthy food. And the other thing that we need to do is to get our children involved in the food process. food should not be, it's mama's job to cook the food and put on the table. They have got to be part of the whole food process. So I think it's a good idea to take the children to the supermarket, let them choose the fruits that they want to eat, let them choose the vegetables that they want to eat. They can see the colors that they like and the different kinds of fruits and vegetables. Then you come back home and get them involved in preparing the food, even in a small way. Even a 3-year-old child, you can tell him, go and bring that cucumber for me, or you just break that cucumber for me. And I think children will always eat what they have helped to prepare. So that when you go on the dining table, you say, I cut that cucumber, or I brought this from the supermarket. So I think it's very, very important for them to be part of the whole process of buying and helping to cook. And I think that not only moms, but dads should also be part of the whole cooking process, so that maybe once a week, we should have a cooking day where everybody can get together and cook the food and then put it on the table. And I also think very important is that when you are sitting at the dining table, to talk about the food, that this cucumber came from somewhere, or, this particular dish has got more sweet or more sour, or how you prepared it. And in a subtle way, the qualities of the food. Say, for example, you can say, that if you eat more carrots, it's good for your eyes. Have you ever seen a bunny rabbit with glasses? No. So it's very good for your eyes. So little things like that, or spinach. Spinach is it's very good for you, Popeye, the spinach man, or whatever it is. So I think getting the children involved in purchasing, in preparing, and in eating together, I think is very important. I find today very sad where people don't sit down and eat together. The mom, sometimes when you go to a restaurant and you find a family of 4 will walk in, they sit on the table and they order the food. And within 5 minutes, mama, dada, all the children will take out their handphones, and all they do is sit at the dining table in the restaurant, play with the gadgets. The food comes, they eat the food, and they go home. There is no conversation between them because they're so involved. So I really think that dinner time, we need to put away all our gadgets and concentrate on the food, the value of the food, where it came from, which country, or whatever interest, or even stories about the fruit or the vegetables. So that is one way, I think, involvement of the children, getting them interested, and let them ask you questions. What do you think? Why do you think that this is more crunchy? Why do you think this is more better? So that then they begin to feel that as a family, they're eating healthy food. And to tell them there's not only you've got to eat, then you've got to exercise, and then, so that you become really very healthy young men and women. And, it becomes a boon to society to have young children who are very healthy.
Это все очень правильно. И, к сожалению, в России мы тоже теряем традицию больших семейных застолий, когда общаются взрослые с детьми, когда еда – это важная трапеза и важный момент общения и единения семьи. Вы очень правы в этом. А скажите, пожалуйста, вы знаете что-то о русской кухне или, может быть, о здоровом питании в России? Какие-то есть у вас познания в этой сфере?
Yes, a little bit I do, because I think in Russia, food plays a very important part in the whole culture of Russia. And I think this whole question of eating together and cooking together is very prevalent in Russia. And also you have very healthy food like your borscht and your all the other things that I've seen. But all the food that you have in Russia, I think a lot of emphasis is on healthy food and on healthy living. So although when we traveled in Russia, we did try some Russian food, which was a different kind of a palate for us, but it was interesting. I think the soups were very nice. The salads were very nice, and the use of your beets, the beetroot, the rice, nice color, and also the nutritional value of the food. And I believe that even your president, I think, is talking about healthy food. Even I think as a government policy, the importance of promoting healthy food. So yeah, I know a little bit about the food of Russian food, but not that much, but enough to know that food is a very important part, plays a very important part in Russia, and also a lot of emphasis is being given for healthy eating, and people are encouraged to eat more healthy food.
Спасибо за такие познания и интересные факты. У нас в русских народных сказках и авторских произведениях иногда еда становится главным персонажем. У нас, например, есть такая сказка «Колобок», шарик из теста, который ушел от бабушки и дедушки, которые его испекли. Есть ли подобные персонажи в литературе Малайзии для детей?
Actually, not that I'm aware of, but by the same token, we do have stories about our fruits, and especially the Malaysian fruits, like the durian and the mangosteen, and fruits about the star fruit. So, although in those stories, the fruit is not. The story is about the fruit, and in some stories there are some lessons that we learn for being kind, or lessons that we learn where you should not be cruel and things like that, and be more giving and sharing of food with other people, but not in the way that your story is in Russia, but in our folk tales, we do have a lot of stories, not necessarily only from Malaysia, but from around Malaysia, from Vietnam, from Indonesia, from Thailand. There are lots and lots of stories about fruits. Yeah.
Спасибо. И в заключение нашего с вами разговора я хотела бы спросить, если все-таки российским специалистам удастся добраться до Малайзии, что вы нам советуете попробовать из малазийской кухни?
Oh, wow. That is a really, our cuisine is so varied and so well known because it's a multicultural country, right? So we have got cuisines from different that influence, that have a little bit of Chinese influence, Malay influence, and Indian influence. But of course, some of the food that you must try is our Nasi Lemak. Nasi Lemak is actually, it's almost our national dish. It is coconut rice that is served with chicken curry and with a little bit of vegetable and a little bit of sambar. It's delicious. You must try the Nasi Lemak. Then we have all different kinds of laksas, which are like a soupy dish with different kinds of noodles. So it has a little bit, some have a little bit more Chinese influence, and then some are like Assam laksa is more sour, and you've got our lemak laksa, which has got coconut milk. Then we have, you've got to try our roti canai, which is again a very, 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 very popular dish. And of course, our rendang is very well known, the chicken rendang and the beef rendang. So actually, I think when you come, you will really enjoy our food because there's so much. I think if you are here in Malaysia for 7 days, you won't even finish tasting all our dishes. There are so many dishes, and there are meat dishes, there are vegetables, and there are fruits, because we've got lots of fruits. So we have a lot of dishes that are made with fruits. And of course, you must try our very fresh fruits like the durian and the mangosteen and the rambutan, which and our jackfruit. So we have lots of fruits for you to try, and you must try our fresh coconut water, and all the different kinds of desserts that we make using coconut, as well as little condiments like our ice kacang and chendol. All these are all the lovely foods that you should try. And it's very easy. I'm sure that would have organized in some of our dinners for you to taste some of our Malaysian cuisine, but you must try our street food. It is really, really, it's varied and it is delicious, and it's a lovely way to, hopefully by that time, we would be able to go out and eat together. And I think eating is not only eating, but eating together and enjoying the good food.
Спасибо большое. Спасибо за прекрасное выступление. Я уже в чате сразу увидела, когда Вен Ди написала «Дуриан». Надо попробовать. Спасибо вам, уважаемые коллеги. Я благодарю вас от имени всего нашего коллектива. Передаю привет вам от нашего директора Марии Веденяпиной. Благодарю тех, кто организовал наш прекрасный разговор. Это госпожу Эда Судана, Сухана, простите. Я благодарю Татьяну Луконину и нашу техническую поддержку. Вот со мной рядом Николай, который обеспечил прекрасный звук, изображение. И я надеюсь, что наши слушатели, которые зайдут потом на канал нашей библиотеки YouTube и прослушают, получат большое удовольствие и много нового узнают о Малайзии и вас, наших друзьях. Всего самого доброго, и я надеюсь, до встречи в Малайзии. До свидания.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. It was really great meeting. Thank you.